everybody, it's Drybear. Season 3 is here. We've got 2 new ultimate weapons, a new Descendant, and a bunch of new trigger mods, so it's time to start working through some kind of optimal builds for these. And today what I wanted to do, since a lot of people are focusing on some other aspects of the game with Stormhanger as well as Wall Crasher, I wanted to dive into the new Battle Pass rocket launcher Exterminator, which has this kind of lock-on feature where you can lock on targets and shoot. And as far as damage goes, after running all the numbers and testing all the different builds, it's not going to be replacing your restored relic for damage throughput. However, it has one very important function that is incredibly good for Axion planes, and that is its unique ability to deal bonus damage to targets that are special inside of Axion planes, including the breach tunnels, the breach sacks, the assault ships that come in and do dropship activities for the Vulgus inside, as well as the large unique enemies like the Abyss Scarab. All of those are affected by the Exterminator. And so what I've started doing is running a AoE build like a Nez or something, clearing all the mobs, and then when a dropship shows up or a breach sack appears, I just bring out my Exterminator and it destroy it in a couple shots or 2 shots, and then it's gone and ready to go. So today we're going to talk about the most optimal build for Exterminator for that purpose, talk about why the mods are chosen, and talk about what alternate choices you could make for the build itself. But if you're wondering how to use the new Battle Pass weapon, you're in the right place. So here's the readout for the Exterminator. Now, the challenge with this, and I don't know why Quanta or Magnum keeps doing this, but they keep releasing weapons that have very low stat values in fields that become pretty much irrelevant in a lot of cases. And for Exterminator, that's the multi-hit and the crit chance. The crit chance is so low, the weak point is so low, the crit damage is so low, and there's no decent multi-hit damage on it as well. So as far as like pure damage output, your best option is going to be Elemental for this weapon, mainly because it has 2 blue weapon core slots, which is only elemental damage. It has a free slot, 2 green slots, and the base crit chance, I believe, is 10%. The base crit damage is like 1.15. The base weak point is like a flat 1. So like all those numbers are so impossibly low that it is really hard to scale them up for that. So for this, I think your best output for damage is going to be a fire attack, mainly because the weapon itself has built-on fire attack. So if you jump in game, you can see that the crit rate at base is 10%, which is serviceable, but generally for a 10% value, it's close enough where you could build it. However, you kind of really need to use a Descendant buff or an external buff to give it a little bit of a jump start on the crit rate. Because crit rate is a multiplicative scalar, all of your percent applications to the crit rate is going to be scaled off the base, which means that you're scaling off of 10%. So, 10% becomes 12%, becomes 13%. It's very slow and very expensive opportunity cost-wise to stack up crit on this weapon. And even then, the base critical hit damage on it is 1.15. So you get a 15% bonus damage scalar on your crits when you crit, which means that you have to put so much effort into doing crit chance and crit damage to scale it up. Now, keep in mind, caveat here, if you run a Descendant build or a very niche build that's highly specialized that gets firearm crit chance and crit damage built into it, it does become viable with this weapon. So if you're running like an Enzo or like a Supply Moisture Valby, for example, you could run crit with this weapon. However, because it's supposed to be a general purpose Exterminator build, I'm not going to say that, hey, you can only use it with Valby or Enzo, for example. So we're going to focus on the other values there. And there's good reason for that as well. So if we grab this, I was doing a toe crusher earlier. You can see with this, I have over 2 million fire attack right now with 438,000 explosive attack. So at this point, my Exterminator with a full build will basically 2-shot drop shields. It'll 2-shot the breach tunnels. It'll 2-shot the breach sacks that are up in the air, creating the adaptive defense. And it will, like 3 to 5-shot the special components on like the Scarab or like the breach contaminator, like those special mobs that show up. Most of them have a piece of armor on them that you have to break first to remove their damage reduction. So you want to do that with the Exterminator, and the Exterminator is quite good at it with just a couple shots to get it done. And this becomes very useful in a lot of ways. So you can see that like we're 2-shotting the drop ships. All of the Vulgus on board don't drop when you do that. We're 2 or 3-shotting the breach sacks, which turns off their adaptive defense and makes sure that your elemental damage does full damage on it. You can, destroy the guys that show up, and it gives you a lot of options and a lot of ammo as well to make sure that it works together. Again, you could run a crit build with like a crit Descendant, or you could run a Serena build with just pure fire rate or Glay if you wanted to, but I think this is the most multi-purpose build that works on everybody and is incredibly effective. As you can see here, it destroys all the special effects inside of Axion planes and makes all of the missions faster. On average, having, on a Descendant that isn't Serena, having this Exterminator to destroy special effects ends up cutting the mission time by about in half, right? Because if you can insta-gib all of the dropships that are up in the air, and you can drop all of the scarabs and stuff like that, you can end up shortening the mission time significantly by reducing the amount of things that you need to kill. Now, the most important aspect that you need to understand about the Exterminator is going to be its targeting system. So I have this like still up on here on screen so you can see when you hold right click, like you hold your ADS for the Exterminator, it will lock onto targets, and then when you fire, it will shoot at all the targets dealing damage. However, there's two different types of targets, and you really need to pay attention to those markers. So you'll notice on screen here, this kind of reminds me of like the bleach Soifong mark when she stabs somebody on someone, like a little butterfly. But basically you have like this like yellow marker, and then you have the red marker. Yellow just means it's locked onto a normal target and will do its normal launcher damage to that target when it strikes. If it's a red marker, like this one here in the middle of the screen, that means it is an Axion Planes special target. They will take bonus damage from the rocket or have some kind of special effect on it as well. So you'll notice here, even with just this shot, my Exterminator does about 30 million damage a shot to the dropships and the breach sacks and the breach tunnels. So 30 million damage a shot on these is, you just delete them super fast, you get rid of them, and you're good to go. But on normal targets, it's going to do a lot less. Now, for this general purpose build, we're gonna go all in on fire damage. It gives us a large amount of fire attack and firearm explosive attack on top of everything. And like I said, gets us over 2 million base fire attack on its own, which is the highest damage throughput you can get without including Descendant-specific builds. And for this is what I would run. I would run with all of the elemental mods, so fire enhancement, superheated gun barrel, fire conductor, heat circulation. All of these will give you a nice boost in power. Then we want to get as much explosive attack as we can, because that's what the scaler is for dealing damage to Albion or Axion Planes special enemies. So we're going to add rifling reinforcement, action and reaction, charge amplification, all of those will add more. And then the downside with this weapon is that it fires very slow and has an impossibly long reload time. So we want to run at least Recycling Genius. If you wanted to, you could run Reload Expert as well as an additional reload. With just Recycling Genius, you get to about like under 2-second reload, which it starts at 3.2, which is quite nice. Then you want to add fire rate to it, and then you want to just kind of get some extra rounds in there. Personally, you can put in weapon cores to taste based on what you're looking for, but I would run 3 fire attack scalers. This is how you get such a high fire attack on the weapon. And then I run 1 fire rate and 1 rounds per magazine. Primarily because I'm only using this weapon for Axion Planes effects, because most other weapons will do better damage in single target if you're firing. So you could, if you wanted to, you could run 3 fire rate, like one fire rate in the special like free slot, and 2 more fire rates in the green if you're going to do like a Serena or a Glay, for example. But if you're using this for shooting down Axion Plane targets, I actually find that the rounds per magazine on this is quite nice. It goes from 6 to 14 rounds in a single magazine, which is excellent. It means you don't have to reload as much, which means you can get away with running 1 reload mod instead of 2, or an extra roll on that as well. For the rerolls, there's not a whole lot of value here. Your biggest value for rerolls is going to come from explosive attack and fire attack overall. And then the last 2 are not major contributors, but because we are limited on what stats we can get for reroll on the weapon, it means that we kind of just take whatever adds the most value. In this case, even though we're not doing multi-hit chance of any kind will give us a small increase in power, and crit chance will give us a small increase in power. It's a matter of single-digit percentiles, so it's not crazy big, but it's better than nothing, and there isn't really anything else that we can do on the rerolls to make this weapon better. Now, the DPS shown here is the fully built DPS against single target, so if you have multiple targets getting hit, you multiply by the number of targets. So if you are hitting a lot of targets, you can get some pretty decent damage on that. And then you have your weighting for the contribution that each of these modules will provide for your overall damage for this as well on the left side of the screen, so you can figure out what you want to build and in what order you want to upgrade them. So I'm kind of at a point now where I just, whoever I'm bringing into Axion Planes at the moment, I just bring the Exterminator with me, and I use that character to destroy all the enemies. And then if there's a special target like a sack or a tunnel or, like a razor claw or something like that, we pull them out, you know, blow them away with the Exterminator and then you switch back, or just keep the Exterminator in your hand the entire time, run the Labrador Retriever so you're constantly getting high power rounds, and then just blast everything out of the sky. And it may seem like, you know, I've seen people make the argument of like, why would I bother destroying the dropships if I can just kill everything that's on the ground? But honestly, it ends up saving a large amount of time just to blow these things out. Even here, you can see we blow the breach sack out, which disables the adaptive defense, so we're good to go. We can blow all the swarm tunnels out. Very quick, very snappy, very easy, and on average, it cut my mission time down by about a half, and that varies based on how many special targets are on the mission, right? Like, there's a lot of dropships. The Exterminator can end up shortening the mission time by more than 50%, like 60, 70%, makes the mission way faster because the Volgas on board don't drop and you don't have to worry about them. There's no delay with that either. But if there's less dropships and less targets, then you may not have the same kind of efficacy. Also, keep in mind that there are a few, I mean, as is with this patch, there's a bunch of bugs with this patch in general, and there are also bugs with Exterminator. You will encounter some Axion planes special targets that don't take any bonus damage from the Exterminator. Like, you might come up against a breach sack or a swarm tunnel, which it's supposed to do crazy damage against, and it just, for whatever reason, some of the missions have those targets that aren't flagged properly in the database, and you won't get bonus damage on them. So you're just gonna have to wait for them to hotfix it and fix it up. But in general, I think it's an excellent weapon for just making any build, regardless of what you're using, a lot more comfortable in Axion planes, because you can destroy all the special targets that not only make your missions faster, but also make it so that it's easier to kill things, right? If adaptive defense goes down because the breach sack is destroyed, you do more damage. Even targets like the Abyss Scarab or the Razor Claw or whatever, when they phase or when they have a special mark on them, you know that they actually have a piece. Like on the Abyss Scarab here, you can see when he grows that armor, he gets damage reduction, so all your damage goes down. So you have to break that armor. So you see the spikes popped up, we blew the armor right off of him, and now we're doing full damage again, and you can kill him. So if you're wondering why your Abyss Scarab, the second half of it, like his second HP bar, takes forever compared to the first one, it's because you're not breaking the armor off his body, which removes his damage reduction, and the Exterminator fits for that really well. So that's where we're at. I'll leave a link down to this one sheet down below in the comments in the description if you want to use it for a reference, but at least the Battle Pass weapon kind of continues what they've been doing for a while, for the last few seasons for the First Descendant, and they introduce a weapon that is very good at dealing with the new mechanics they added into the game, just like they did with Voltia, and Exterminator is no different. It's not going to beat your Restored Relic for pure DPS throughput, but it is very useful for Axion Planes, and if Axion Planes is going to be anything like Sigma Sector, we're going to be doing it every day until our eyes bleed for the next 6 months, so having this in your repertoire is going to be really, really good. And if you have any build recommendations, like you're running this like with a Supply Moisture Valaby or an Enzo, or you're doing a Serena build with this weapon, let us know what your results are down in the comments and how that compares to other weapons, just so you can help inspire others as well. If you found value in today's video, leave a like down below, leave a comment for the algorithm to help this video get seen by more people, and don't forget to check out my other channels for other content and other stuff and other things.